where has this 227 million kina gone? Because in Karamui, we haven't seen anything in respect to SEZ.
Those provisions before they were struck down by the Supreme Court were there to solve a problem.
Gas company, oil and gas company, ADNOC, has now expressed the interest to buy out Santos.
Supplementary question, Honourable.
Governor from Morovia asked a question about the provisions of the OLIPEC law, which were struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. Those provisions before they were struck down by the Supreme Court were there to solve a problem on the operation of political parties in this country. And when the Supreme Court struck it down, those problems re-emerged again. Now we are living through those problems again right now, this red-hot minute. So this is where there's a need for us to look at that part of the OLIPEC law and have it rewritten again to conform to other parts of the Constitution. The problem is still there. So I've spoken about this when I was previously in government, that we should look at rewriting it to make it conform with the other parts of the Constitution. So can I ask if there has been any work in progress with a view to reintroducing those provisions but written in another way to bring in some discipline? The parties must be given strength in this country. When you erode the strength of the party system, and it becomes an individual choice, it's more chaotic to manage than if we're dealing through the party structure. So we have to relook the role of parties in this country. Again, that vacuum is also leading to the cannibalization and death of small parties, like the one I'm a member of. I bring in members from out there during the election through hard work, only to be robbed of my membership by the larger parties, especially those in government. So it's killing off the party system. So we need to reintroduce those provisions to protect the small parties, protect the party system as a whole, avoid situations like this. So can the Prime Minister give us some assurances that some work is going to be done to reintroduce those parts? And perhaps the Attorney General should also take note of this, and both of them should give us some solutions, because the problem is still there. Yesterday we wasted a lot of time on the Christian bill. There's no problem with our Christianity, Mr. Speaker.
Member,
this is where our problem is.
Honourable Member, you already asked your supplementary question. I can't allow you to go debate more further on that. I'll allow Prime Minister to respond to your supplementary.
All right, Mr. Deputy Speaker, me tokam mas long member of Sinasina. Me ask him important supplementary question. Long side law making more law long banismal member. Make a try bring slowly pack law come inside. Constitution review he come up now. Supreme Court he overturning certain parts of that aspect of our constitution, that law. Me like talk also me too making work, but there's a borderline between infringing on members' individual right. I think something that I will never compromise is right of members to have their own conscious call on what they want to do. This is the gift of our Section 50 in our Constitution. Now, suppose you exercise in this block good, members can create instability if we like him. Mipla, robbing one block member or joining Mipla, per se, as borrowing word long member of Sinasina-Yonggomugl. No one robbed a member of Parliament to join one party. Members exercise their God-given freedom of choice as encapsulated under Section 50 to sit here or sit there. And at the end of the day, it is really what is in your inner man that decides where you are seated. No amount of rope will tie a leader down. No amount of law will tie a leader down. And I don't think it is right for this Parliament to structure laws that will tie down members. There must be enough levers in our laws to allow members their freedom of choice, but at the same time provide stability of administration and governance in our country. We on this side are not reckless. We have the numbers to try to amend, to change things for the betterment of stability, but we want to do it correctly so that we don't compromise individual freedom of members and we don't compromise good governance and sanity of leadership. We cannot give one power to someone to abuse even into the future. That is something that we're finding a fair and fine balance so that democracy is maintained in its fullest, giving respect. And at the heart of democracy is really individual's choice. And I want to give assurance to this House, whilst we look at all the aspects of law to make it entrench stability, really at the end of the day, stability is in the heart of each members of Parliament. You only have to ask members who had dignity and honor in the 1980s and 1990s, even when there was no DSIP, even when there was no PSIP, even when there was no organic law on political parties and candidates, they choose to remain faithful to their party of origin. And that's something that we must construct. I look forward to the recommendations from the member for Sinasina. You're one of our most brilliant MPs in both sides of the House. If you feel that this should be contributed upon, please, by all means, contribute in writing. Let's work together as a bipartisan. We are approaching 50th anniversary of our nation. We know the hindsight weaknesses. Let's construct a better foresight for our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member from Chuave.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. My question without notice goes to the Minister for International Trade and Investment, the Honourable Richard Maru. Mr. Speaker, with the litany of issues that the country continues to grapple with, especially law and order, this government has been globe-trotting and jet-setting at every turn. Now, on August the 31st, Mr. Speaker, the good minister has announced that he will be hosting a SEZ summit in Papua New Guinea. Recently, he has just returned from another summit in Osaka, where they have been on an expo for trade and investment. In 2023, Mr. Speaker, this minister and his department received 77 million kina in SEZ funding. In 2024, he received 150 million kina in SEZ funding. In 2025, the amount is undisclosed. Where has this 227 million kina gone? Because in Karamui, we haven't seen anything in respect to SEZ. So, Mr. Speaker, my question is, how much did this expo recently in Osaka cost the taxpayers of Papua New Guinea? And what are the benefits that we anticipate from all this globe-trotting and jet-setting by this minister and his Prime Minister? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Trade and Investment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Chuave for a very important question. Firstly, in relation to funding for AZZs, last year the AZZ Authority received 10 million in funding, and this year the budget only provided for 10 million, and the bulk of it is yet to be dispersed. So I don't know where you plug those figures from. That's what's been given to the AZZ Authority. But if you're talking about state equity, then that's something very different.
Honourable Minister, we have a point of order. Honourable Member of Chuave, one point of order, please.
Mr. Speaker, the figures have been obtained from the national budgets. Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me clarify that. I think he's making reference to state equity funding, which is not AZZ funding. These are for state investments. So I just want to correct that. Specifically for AZZ, the AZZ Authority got budget provision for 10 million last year and 10 million this year. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, let's get to the issue of attending expos and the funding that we put to invest in expos. I'll comment on the previous expo in Dubai, and then I'll come to the Osaka expo, which is going on and which will conclude in October. In the Osaka expo, the government of Papua New Guinea, when I was not a minister, spent $5 million to attend the expo. At the conclusion of the expo, after 6 months, 29 companies from UAE registered their interest to come and invest in Papua New Guinea. All because of our attendance and the investment of $5 million at the expo. And the request to our government was, the UAE government wanted an agreement to be signed by our two countries called the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement to provide assurance to the UAE investors that if they invest in Papua New Guinea, their investments will be safe. And there is no reason for them not to come. We have a similar agreement with countries like Australia and New Zealand. Despite the interest, our agencies responsible were not able to get the IPPA agreement signed, and hence they've delayed companies from UAE to come into Papua New Guinea to venture into investments in PNG. After Osaka, I went to Abu Dhabi the previous week, apologized to their government for the delay and assured them that within 2 weeks we will have the agreement ready for sign-off. And we are having the first draft sent over to the UAE by Friday, final draft. And I want to assure this Parliament, in my time, we are going to get this agreement signed and unlock the investment potential of UAE into this country. It is interesting at the back of these discussions, the national gas company, oil and gas company, ADNOC, has now expressed the interest to buy out Santos at a cost of 18 billion Australian dollars. Santos operates in both Papua New Guinea and Australia. This will be a very significant investment if this purchase goes through. But it is subject to agreements by both the South Australian government and the PNG government. We are assessing that, and it can only be done if it's in our national interest in law. So the first comment I want to make in relation to the value of investing in Expo, if we had done our job through our public servants, we would have already had investments here from that country. And we're going to get it done now. On top of the IPPA agreement, UAE government has been negotiating with our government through the Transport Ministry and Department. They wanted us to sign an air service agreement so that the Emirates can fly into Port Moresby all the way from UAE, Singapore, Port Moresby. We have been delaying that for another 2 years. And I'm trying to get that concluded so we can start getting Emirates flights coming in. Create competition, reduce the airfares. These are the results of going to invest $5 million in the expo in Dubai. When I was there last week, they've now agreed to enter into a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with PNG. We received the first draft proposed by them yesterday. If we do that, we will be able to have duty-free access in terms of the market into the UAE. They are now proposing under this agreement to offer scholarships to PNG students to study in their universities. They're looking at employment quotas for skilled Papua New Guineans to work in UAE, like they're doing with Fiji and other Pacific Island countries. They're even looking at giving us aid for our national ID system. Minotoklo 300 million in Mebaim Loksim Chinese technology. I'm talking about free money, aid. So this is the benefit of investing a small 5 million by going to Dubai for the expo. The employment opportunities, Emirates coming into PNG, scholarships coming, grant aid coming. So when you're talking about cost and benefits, we are going to receive so much more than investing 5 million in attending the expo. Now let's switch over to Japan. The cabinet made a bold decision for us to participate in Japan at the expo. Firstly, to recognize Japan, to show us their support because it's their expo year. It'll only happen, they will only host the expo in our lifetime once. Japan is our second biggest aid donor. Papua New Guinea understands, since independence, they are a founding bilateral partner. They've invested 6 billion in grant aid to this country. 6 billion. Only next to Australia. Baigol Expo year belong investing 5 million. When we were there, they announced 92 million grant aid to upgrade the Kavian Fisheries College. Announced. 92 million. Even spending 5 million on Osaka, they're coming back with 92.
We have a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, that 92 million was a decision made 5 years back. The problem with investment of that money was because of ownership issue in Kavieng. So the minister is doing a lot of great work, but he shouldn't sort of use that as an announcement that was made by this government. Yeah. That decision was coming for the last 5 years. It was a decision made in the last 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The point I'm trying to make is this announcement was made when we were in Japan with our Prime Minister. Maybe groundwork start long time. You put in 5 million, logo na look or Japan lo expo year belong, they are coming back to you with 92 million. That's the point. The next thing. Miblagolo Japan. Prime Minister Blood announced him. Because we took the time to go and spend 5 million to go. For the first time, I met the former Prime Minister, he never talked about Tokua. This Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, we were the first to visit him. Our Prime Minister, they are completing a feasibility study into Tokua with the possibility of them funding the upgrade of Tokua into a major international airport. I saw the NAC plans for Tokua. It's likely that the funding will be greater than 700 million spent for Najab. Tokua is special place belong there. KB staff, body blood staff. This could be over $1 billion could be invested in Tokua. Timing by Yumigo was perfect. The new Prime Minister was just elected. Our Prime Minister was the first to visit him. First head of a foreign government. They've made a commitment to Tokua that I have not seen one Prime Minister make prior to that. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, you can all complain about trips. Suppose you invest in something also 5 million. We want, by going to Dubai, we may never get you Emirates here under a service agreement. We may not create job opportunities for our citizens. We may not create significant grant aid, which will pay back that 5 million 100 times over. So I say, Mr. Speaker, it is very important to invest 5 million each time in Expo because what it brings is far, far more significant benefits to our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.